Next up, we have Muriel Arnal, who is the founding president of One Place.
You just say slide next, and then I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you, Ingrid. Good morning. So I have the best assistant ever, Ingrid. I will let Ken start my talk. So next slide and video. Ingrid, please.
That was always my feeling with the house on San Juan Island. It's in the perfect location. I was getting disappointed that the whales were not coming there, the population was decreasing. Yeah. And so I have to, what I'm having to do is hope that they'll be here and thriving in 100 years. We will have come to our senses and restored nature. And then I would love to have the house be the place that whale research continues.
Our gathering today, our commitment to the orcas is exactly what Ken wished for when we met him for the last time last summer. He wished that his home, the center, survived him and continued to serve the fight for the southern residents and all the orcas in the world. I'm very pleased to be here today with all of you at Superpod again.
You want the next slide?
Yeah, okay. Please. No, this is not the next slide.
This one?
Yes. Okay. Every year brings its challenges, and this is going to be a turning point for the orcas in France. Therefore, being reunited and working together has never been more vital. Well, never mind. I'll present without slides, but
no,
we have quite a few videos. So,
yeah.
But it's not in the proper order. Never mind. So, what about the legislation in France? Because, as you may know, in 2017, the Ministry of Ecology issued a decree banning exchange and breeding in and in between dolphin area in France, therefore signaling the end of captivity for dolphins. Marineland had announced that they would stop breeding their orcas since, anyway, they couldn't do because they share the same bloodline. This is exactly what we had asked for during the meetings with the ministry, the advisors, and during the consultation, so we were very happy. Unfortunately, it was annulled on a technicality by the High Court when the captivity industry filed a complaint. In 2021, a new law was voted in Parliament regarding animal abuse. It included wild animals in captivity, therefore dolphin area. It says that shows with dolphins and orcas will be banned as of 2026, and that the animals should be sent to seaside sanctuaries. However, the breeding and keeping of orcas and dolphins will still be allowed in the parks that have scientific programs approved by the state. Yeah, and since in order to be able to keep captive animals, the parks already have to run valid scientific programs, it means that this progress is fake for the animals, and that this is not an exception, unfortunately. The 2021 law was a major setback from the 2017 decree. To state the facts clearly, there is no ban on dolphinaria in France.
Do you want me to put one of the videos up here?
Yeah, but it's a mess. No, it's not now, but never mind. it's, anyways.
So it's good for them to see the pictures.
Yeah, yeah, but they have a meaning at some point, you know.
Yes.
Anyways, so this is going to be a puzzle. You'll have to relate what I'm saying to the slides you're going to see, all right? This is going to be a game. So this law deceived the public, making them believe that delphinaria belonged in the past. And this was a disaster, both for the animals and for the campaign. We received many, many messages from people who were appalled when they realized that delphinaria will be able to keep their animals. And that was especially the case when we released new footage. There should be a video here, but never mind. Because obviously we were not deceived by the law. We had read the text, which the public didn't have. And we tried to warn people as much as we could. Now, today, we continue the fight, both in France and worldwide, because it knows no bounds, does it? We continue, but this new law was a really, really, how can I say that?
A setback.
It stopped our campaign. And we sometimes wonder that if it was not voted on purpose. Therefore, when new laws are voted, we have to really be careful what is written in the text.
Muriel, do you want to mention Anouk's the thing on
Yeah, but later.
Okay.
It comes at some point, but not now. So recently we received confirmation that the 4 French orcas would be sent to a Japanese park in 2024. The Ministry of Ecology has been putting pressure on Marineland to get rid of their orcas so that the government can claim a victory. Yeah, no more orcas in France. In 2019, the member of parliament who was working on the law at the time tried to convince me to let the orcas go to China. And he said to me, then you can claim the victory. I won't comment on my reaction. They're doing the same thing with circus elephants, who are currently being sent to horrible parks abroad where they die. Now we're campaigning to stop the Ministry of Ecology and to convince Marineland to work with us on an alternative solution for their whales. The MEP from that area is very supportive, and she is going to ask for a meeting with them, because so far it's not easy to have a meeting with the director. And fortunately, we've been contacted by Japanese NGOs, and we're currently working with them. And maybe the park in Japan has heard that there was a campaign, maybe. An important reminder, delphinaria are a national issue in Europe. It does not depend on a European Union directive. Therefore, we have to work at national level, which doesn't stop us from helping one another. We are doing that against fur with the Fur Free Alliance, for instance, and we have victory because every time a group campaigns in a country, everybody comes together. And this is what is giving me hope for dolphins and orcas in France. So, how does Marineland react to the campaign? You want to see? No? Okay. And to the blackfish effect, because there has been one. It's mentioned here. You see? Okay, thank you. In 2019, we visited the park with journalists. Pascal Picot, the director, came to meet us with his staff. They followed us everywhere during our visit, but they let us work. In 2021, it was still under the COVID period, and although masks were not compulsory, we wore masks and we were able to do the orca encounter with journalists. Unfortunately, as soon as I took off my mask, Pascal Picot rushed to us with his team, and they took us out of Marineland, shouting the whole time we were walking outside. Last month, 2023, I had been inside for 10 minutes, and I heard, Madame Arnal, you're not welcome here. I'm going to take you to the exit. And that was the head animal caretaker. He was with another director and 2 security guards. So he took me out of the park, and I took this opportunity to talk with him. I told him we wanted a meeting with Pascal Picot. We just wanted to sit down and talk and see and find solutions. Obviously, they were not willing to do that. I did not mention Ingrid, who was inside the park. I didn't want to raise any suspicions. And during the time, we talked about, obviously, about the orcas. We talked about sanctuaries. So I talked about Lolita. And he said, well, it's rubbish. It's never going to happen. Laurie, Charles, you would have many things to tell them, wouldn't you? Anyways, then I talked about Japan. And he said that it was not their decision. It was coming from high up. So, which proved the influence of the ministry. Then I mentioned Loro Parque to see if they had looked at other solutions. And in May, with Ingrid, we were at Loro Parque, and we witnessed a horrible fight between Aiden and Tekoa. And he said to me they would not send them there because they wanted them well taken care of. In the meantime, while we were there, Virgile, our director, who is hidden behind the computers, was inside with 2 journalists, and they did the orca and the dolphin encounter, and they learned a lot of things. Firstly, Inuxtis, whom I will talk about a little later. Well, Inuxtis doesn't have teeth anymore, you see, but it's not a problem because they're going to grow back. So Jeff, Ingrid, and John Jett wrote a report for us. Thank you, guys. But you should go talk to Marineland. You will learn a few things. Anyways, at Marineland, the tooth fairy is very busy. Then dorsal fins, well, all orcas in the wild have a collapsed dorsal fin. So what are we talking about? Then they asked about life expectancy. And they were told that the maximum age for an orca is 30 years old. And Inuk, the oldest, is very old, is 24. So that's the criteria that Marineland has. Inuk's parents died at 24 and 23. So I think they're taking their own benchmark and giving it away to the public as a reference, as a general benchmark. Lastly, they explained to us that orcas were making their own choices and decisions. The trainers are just suggesting activities, you see. And if they don't do what they've been asked to do, they're not punished. There's no bullying. And right after they explained that, Inuk and Wiki, his sister, refused to do something, and the trainers asked us to remain silent, not to upload, not to send them to get a reward, to show that we were disapproving of their behaviors. So this is Marineland's communication. Slide 5. Good. Who are Inuk, Moana, and Wiki? We wish they were birds, wouldn't we? And they could fly away, but they can't. Last year, we filed an emergency request in court asking the judge to nominate an independent expert to assess Inuk and Moana's health, because these were the two orcas we were most concerned about. And also to assess the state of the stadium, because this is another major concern. In 2019, slide 6, yes. Ingrid, Jeff, and John Jett wrote a report about Inuk's teeth, and that was so helpful. Thank you again, guys. Thank you so much. And then in 2022, for this request, Ingrid, Naomi, who's here, and David Perpignan, who was a vet at Loro Parquet, who's no longer there, wrote affidavits for us after viewing footage from our investigators. Here are a few extracts of what they wrote. Slide 7. Inuk, by Ingrid. I note here that Inuk's teeth are the worst teeth I have documented in any orca, captive or wild, in more than 30 years of studying the species. Inuk suffers from acute and chronic stressors associated with unnatural confinement. In effect, he has a reduced quality of life due to captivity at Marineland Antibes, and the facility has not improved the condition he lives in, nor his welfare. Naomi, it's a near certainty that his teeth pain him on a routine basis. Regardless, there are pathways for pathogens to enter his system. David Perpignan. Chronic dental pain or variable intensity may be the most negative lack of welfare for Inuk. Inuk is just an extreme case. Extreme cases do not mean that orcas in other facilities have adequate conditions, but indicate that conditions for those extreme cases are significantly worse than in other facilities. Moana, by Naomi. The behavior where Moana is hanging head down in front of the right-hand side of the underwater viewing wall is a stereotypy, repetitive, and without obvious meaning or utility. The hearing occurred last month. Ingrid and Virgil were there. The judge will render his decision in September. But my concern is that he says, well, there's no need to appoint an expert since the orcas are going to go to Japan. We'll see. So, Inuk is the oldest. He's 24. His sister Wiki is 22. And she had two sons, Moana, with Ulysses, and Keijo, with a half-brother, Valentine, who died in the flood in 2016. Last month, Ingrid spent time at the stadium and saw that all 4 orcas now have health problems. Their skin shows a coloration that is a major concern. She asked the trainers what it was, and they have no explanation. They just plainly said that they don't know what that is. This is slide 9. Now the stadium. Well, I visited Marineland in 2019, 21, and 23, but our team, led by Virgile, goes there several times a year, and especially every time Marineland reopens after the winter. Their goal is to monitor the state of the stadium to see if any maintenance has been done, and they just find more rust and more decay. No repairs of any kind. In the meantime, whistleblowers, Marineland employees contact us regularly, and also subcontractors, warned us how badly the situation was for the stadium and for the tanks and for the whole structure. They told us that when the cranes come to take the orcas away, the stadium will collapse. When I founded One Voice 28 years ago, Marineland was extremely powerful. To give you an example, groups that would visit Marineland and take photos of the orcas and publish them or give them to journalists would be sued right away. And many NGOs had to close down because of them. Today, it's a very different situation. Today, the stadium is emptier than ever. People go there less and less. And this is the Blackfish effect. Thank you. Our campaign worked. It worked. And even though politicians, or very few politicians, are brave enough to go against the tide, the public make the difference. And we will continue this way. This is so important. Now, what is their story? Before telling you their story, I would like to mention someone who's not there anymore, who was a very dear friend, and who lived and breathed for them. No one knew how to write about these guys better than he did. Some of you may have known him or been in touch with him. Yvon Godefroy from Belgium. So, Wiki is 22, his brother Inouk is 24. Their parents were caught along the coast of Iceland, and the firstborn orca that they had was Shuka. She was the first orca born at Marineland who survived. And she was a loving sister to Inouk, her little brother, because their mother was so disturbed and traumatized. Unfortunately, Shuka was sold at a very young age to another park, and now she lives with Corky at SeaWorld San Diego. Kim was the father. He was a very large orca, and the trainers were scared of him. So they kept him locked in a small tank at the back his whole life. He was used only for breeding. And he would stay at the gate and watch the other orcas during the show. Kim died at 24 in 2005, just 3 years after the sale of his beloved daughter, Shuka. Sharkane was captured in October 89, and she was transferred to Marineland early 90. At that time, lastly, finally, the legislation prohibited wild-caught orcas from being transferred to delphinaria, but Marineland got a special permission. She was the most disturbed orca of the park. John Hargrove, who is a former SeaWorld trainer and was head trainer at Marineland for a couple of years, said that he had not worked or seen an orca as disturbed as Sharkane. She would isolate herself from the others and bounce for hours on end while vocalizing in the same pattern endlessly. She would not even answer the trainer's calls. The only times when she was seen having a behavior that showed that she was out of her deep trauma was when she was taking care of her children, but even then, she could not take care of them the way even captive orcas do. She died of an infection at 23 in 2009. Before that, when Shuka was sent away, the screaming became more and more intense. So Inouk, whom you've heard of, who loses his teeth and they grow back, well, he watched his loving big sister being sent away. He saw his father die on the other side of the fence, a few meters from him. He saw his mother devoured by an infection, and he lost her protection. And he was faced with a very angry Wiki, his sister. Wiki is famous for having been taught to talk human like a parrot.
Scientists say they have recorded Wiki repeating the words hello, bye-bye, counting up to 3, and even saying the name of her trainer, Amy. Hello? 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 One, two, three.
I know this is difficult to watch. Wiki gave birth to Moana when she was 8 years old after 4 insemination attempts from Ulysses' sperm. Less than 2 years later, she gave birth to Keijo, fathered by Valentine, her half-brother. She was witnessed pushing Keijo fiercely out of the tank when he was little. She was a very aggressive orca at the time. The trainers explained that she was training Keijo to slide out of the tank, of course. Keijo was not even 2 when the flood hit Marineland and killed his father and uncle, Valentine, and left his mother, Wiki, in shock. We don't know what will happen to him in Japan or anywhere else where he'll be sent because they cannot breed him. We know they're going to breed Wiki and Inuk and probably Moana. What we know is that the fight is not over. We are working with our Japanese partners right now. Our lawyers are looking into ways to stop, to block the permits, the export permits. And if we have to go to Japan, we will go. Because if we let them go, the dolphins will go too at some point. And if us all, Western countries, let the orcas go to China and Japan, what message will it send worldwide? And what will happen when all these orcas are dead in those tanks in Asia? Won't they go to the ocean to capture more, to catch more orcas? This is a worldwide and global issue. So we will continue the fight. Before Ken talks about the whales, I would like to thank everybody who made Superpod happen today, especially Jeff and Kim. Thank you very much.
The whales, that is not just a swimming mammal in the ocean. They have a cosmic connection. You know, when you look into the eye of a whale, there's a lot there, and they're looking in our eye, and I think they can read our minds very quickly, much faster than we can read theirs. And to not give them the position in what we think is important, to put them at the top. They're certainly at the top of the ocean. We're maybe the top of the land. But in terms of our cosmic understanding of how to live in our respective environments, they're way ahead of us. And we can feel that spiritually. You can get as woo-woo as you want about it, but they got it. Whatever it is, they've got it. People leaving at whaling stations will come away with, wow, that was an experience. Even a dead whale, even one on the beach. When you have the live whale experience, close and personal, that's when you really know that you're with something that's better than you. this monkeys. Yeah. Just because we walked out of Africa 70,000 years ago, they were already here. They already knew it. Yeah.
Ken, Telecom, Kiska, they are no longer with us physically, but their message, the battles they fought, will continue to spread around our beautiful planet Earth and will help us continue the fight for all the orcas. As one voice, and I'm confident in saying that as all of us, we will make sure the messages are spread across. Thank you.